Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda Douglas, your self-love and happiness coach, but also a domestic violence prevention advocate. Okay, so listen, I hope that you are having a wonderful day. I don't know where you are, but it is about to storm here, and that storm is coming fast. Okay, so I'm going to try to beat that storm, y'all. I'm going to try to beat that storm. Everybody say, beat that storm, beat that storm. Beat that storm. I'm going to try my best. I have a healthy respect for nature, okay? But I have to drop this load. Wait, drop this load. Is that describing having a baby or a bowel movement? Anyway, guys, I was writing this script today and I was like Kermit the Frog, just type. Oh my God, I needed to get this out. So listen, somebody needs to hear this today. So I really hope that it is a blessing. Again, I'm Brenda Douglas and I am a domestic violence prevention coach, and my mission, not coach, advocate. And so my mission is to promote healthy and respectful and nonviolent relationships, and to also raise awareness about the fact that domestic violence is serious and even deadly, is preventable, and it is unacceptable. Just a few quick statistics about intimate partner violence, also known as domestic violence. 1 in 4 women and nearly 1 in 7 men have experienced intimate partner violence. Domestic abuse leads for 30,000 deaths a year worldwide. 85% of domestic violence victims are women. Women between ages 20 and 24 are at a greater risk of becoming victims of domestic violence. Domestic violence is more likely to happen between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. As many as 324,000 women each year experience intimate partner violence during pregnancy. Boys who witness domestic violence are 2 times as likely to abuse their partners and children when they become adults. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women. That's more than car accidents, is more than muggings, and more than rapes combined. Half of all homeless women and children in the U.S. are fleeing from domestic violence. Every 9 seconds in the U.S., a woman is insulted or beaten. In 60% to 80% of intimate partner homicides, no matter which partner was killed, the victim was abused before being murdered. 19% of domestic violence involves weapons. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. The presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of homicide. An average of 24 people per minute are victims of domestic violence. In this video, we're going to be discussing why victims of domestic violence stay with the abuser. But before I forget, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel for more ways that you can create happiness, for self-love and self-care tips, positive thinking techniques, stress remedies, and ways that you can become a better version of yourself, and also more intimate partner violence awareness videos. Domestic violence is a crisis, both globally and here in the United States, because it affects more than 12 million people every year. And behind every number is a story. And I'd like to share a story with you. But let me warn you that this material may be upsetting or even offensive to those who have experienced trauma. But it is necessary for people to understand the serious repercussions of domestic violence. And as a disclaimer, I have changed the names of the people to protect the families involved. An entrepreneur did not display much remorse Monday morning while confessing to killing his fiancée during a heated feud over family finances. When asked if he was guilty of first-degree murder, the defendant nonchalantly replied, The judge demanded a yes or no answer, to which the 50-year-old more firmly stated, I am guilty, Your Honor. Last November, he confronted his soon-to-be bride about her spending habits. Little is known about the words exchanged, but by the time the police arrived at the couple's townhome, the victim was found in the master bedroom, half-clothed and without a pulse. A pillow covered the 43-year-old's face. In court Monday, prosecutors outlined the vicious domestic attack. He used a box cutter to slice his fiancée's face, strangled her for around 5 minutes, and forced his thumbs into her eye sockets. When he later observed her hands quiver, he held a pillar over her face and shouted, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Tears and gasps were audible in court as prosecutors read portions of the medical examiner's report, which noted a deep laceration to her jawline, fingernail markings across her face, and ruptured blood vessels in her eyes, consistent with restricted blood flow from a person heart to head. He, likely in a state of shock, remained in the couple's 3-story townhome for a number of hours. The victim's brother happened to text the defendant early the next morning to say that he would be stopping past the house to grab a few things for his business. That prompted the defendant to dial 911 at 6:45 a.m., candidly stating that he killed his fiancée. When officers pulled up to the residence, he was standing out front, his hands and wallet on the hood of the car. By accepting the murder plea Monday, he eliminated a chunk of prison time, while the victim's family avoided the emotional long trial. After exiting the courtroom, the victim's mother hugged family members and friends who came to show their support. She could be heard telling one woman, I am so happy. The group of nearly 20 wore pins featuring the victim's smiling face in the years 1973 to 2017. A purple ribbon was attached to each pin. Purple is the color that represents domestic violence awareness. Last year, ABC7 spoke to an associate who trained the victim to be a real estate agent. The two had previously worked out of the same office, but the victim had recently opened her own storefront location. According to the associate, the couple met at a social gathering in 2015 and quickly fell in love. She was a real estate agent and he was a contractor. 2 years later, the family had told family and friends they were planning a destination wedding for the fall of 2018. Regarding the claims of overspending, the associate said the victim was wise with her money and was more interested in investments than shopping sprees at designer stores. The associate showed ABC7 a photo of her last lunch date with the victim. It was May 2017. The associate expressed regret at perhaps missing indications of physical abuse. The last 2 times they met, she was saying, "Oh, my hip hurt. I have to go to the doctor." The last time before that, she said, "Oh, my arm hurt. And now I just wonder if I missed some signs," said the associate. The defendant is scheduled for sentencing on January 2nd, 2018. He faces up to 45 years in prison. Now, listen, I know that these stories are not easy to hear or to witness. But again, I need for you to understand how serious domestic violence is. Some people are incarcerated as a result of domestic violence. Some people have been terminally injured or brutally murdered because of domestic violence. And some people have been an innocent bystander or casualty of domestic violence. And that what's crazy is the fact that domestic violence is preventable. And you know what's even more sad is the fact that I guarantee that each of you watching this video knows someone who is going through or in a domestic violence situation right now. Domestic violence is not acceptable. Domestic violence is preventable. Now, some of you may be asking, well, what is domestic violence? Domestic violence includes mental, emotional, verbal, economical, physical, social, sexual abuse of children, adults, and elders. Anyone can be a victim of domestic violence. There's no typical victim. Victims come from all walks of life. They can be of any age, gender, race, culture, religion, sexual orientation, education, employment, economic levels, or marital status. No matter how nice someone's house is or how intelligent they may seem to be, they can be victims of abuse. Again, victims of domestic violence come from all walks of life. Now, the interesting thing about domestic violence is, contrary to belief, domestic violence is not caused by stress or mental illness or alcohol or drugs, nor is it due to the abuser's loss of control of his behavior. Domestic violence is the abuser's deliberate choice to act violently and or control their intimate partner. Now, I want to stop here for a second, and I want to really dive into the different types of abuse. Why? Because when we know better, we do better, number one. And number two, sometimes we can be so in love that we don't see or want to believe or even know that we are being abused, believe it or not. So I want to go into the different types of abuse. There are so many, but I want to go over a few of the different types of abuse so that you can be able to recognize it and you can put a name to the situation or the awkward feeling that you have. Okay, so let's start with mental and psychological abuse. Okay, mental and psychological abuse, when you're experiencing this, the person is creating fear within you. Okay, they may have weapons to instill this fear, or they may drive dangerously. Okay, or they may call you derogatory pet names like chubby pumpkin or things of that nature. They do public embarrassment. They're dismissive of your feelings and of your words and what's important to you. They destroy property, they hurt children or pets. They do threats. They monitor your whereabouts. They control and treat you like a child. They belabor your mistakes, and they accuse you of flirting, and they trivialize. They do a lot of trivializing. In other words, they'll say that you're overreacting, or that didn't happen, and things of that nature. Emotional abuse falls in the same line of psychological, but when you are experiencing emotional abuse, you're being blamed. The perpetrator blames the victim for the problems. They compare the victim to others in their face. They withdraw interest. They do emotional blackmail or suicide threats. They make the partner think that they're crazy. They play mind games. Okay, they make partner feel guilty. I think I've already said that. And they also do something to hurt you, and then they tell you that you are the cause of the abuse. Okay, now verbal abuse. Verbal abuse, is again along the lines of psychological and mental abuse. Mental abuse. Verbal abuse can be verbal, it can be gesture, it can be through written Okay, they can write you a note or something, write something. And when you are experiencing verbal abuse, you may experience name calling, humiliating you out in public or in private, labeling, screaming at you, yelling at you, insulting you, scolding you, rebuking you, shouting. I've already said yelling. They may put you down. Verbal abuse can escalate to physical abuse. Okay, these are just some of the forms of abuse. Physical abuse, direct assault or bodily harm. Okay, choking, biting, slapping, pushing, burning, hitting, kicking, or threats, use of weapon, withholding medicine, medical care, or food, sexual abuse, pressured or unwanted sex, assaulting genitals, hurting your meaning hurting your private parts, forced sex without consent or protection, sexually degrading insults, making threats or taking advantage of victims who are not able to consent. Social abuse, isolating you from your friends and your family, controlling the move to a location that may be isolated, where you have no social circle, restricting you from the use of phone in the car, using jealousy to justify your actions, preventing the victim from going out and meeting people. These are all social abuse. I remember watching this movie not too long ago, actually, where the child set the house on fire, right? The child set the house on fire. And then when they asked him, why'd you do it? He said that because his father kept all of them, including the mother, locked in the house for 2 years. And they couldn't even go outside in the yard. He had all of the doors locks on both sides. And the father was the only one that had the key. Okay? So they couldn't even go out in the front yard. And so he set the house on fire, hoping that the firemen would come and rescue them. Anyway, tragic, I know. Tragic, I know. But you need to be aware. Financial abuse, withholding money, ruining your credit, stopping a partner from getting and keeping a job, forbidding access to bank accounts, providing only a small allowance, not allowing the victim to have a job, controlling all of the finances, and causing continuous financial hardships. Now, some of you are thinking, do people actually go through this? And the answer is yes, they do. Yes, they do. But domestic violence is preventable. Sadly, though, people do go through it. If you are experiencing abuse, you can make an anonymous confidential call, okay, to the National Domestic Abuse Hotline. That telephone number is 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. They have folks available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help you, okay? And again, it can be anonymous when you call, and then your information is confidential, okay? But listen, you need to know that help is available. There are systems in place to protect you, okay? But you need to reach out, and you need to make the decision, and you need to stick firm with this decision, okay? Because listen. If you stay, the experience can cause you to be mentally scarred and emotionally damaged. Okay, and that goes for you and people in your household. It will affect you. Domestic violence will damage you and your children, and that damage can last a lifetime or even cause death. Okay, and listen, your life is worth so much more. Aren't you excited about your future and what your future could be? Okay, love does not hurt. Let me say that again. Love does not hurt, okay? And the longer you stay in this toxic relationship, again, the more damaged you become, okay? And it will affect your future, okay? You must love yourself enough to get up from the table when love is no longer being served, okay? Domestic violence is preventable. Together we can break the cycle and prevent domestic violence. Now, some of you are wondering, well, how can I prevent domestic violence? Well, you can prevent it by knowing what abuse is, number one, and by not ignoring the warning signs or the red flags. Okay, when you start dating a person, pay attention and watch and listen. Watch out for their behaviors, okay? Because, listen, the behaviors may not be directed towards you, but every now and then you'll see the behavior come out. A chameleon can only hide its spots for a short time, right, before he gets noticed, right? So the behaviors may not be directed to you, but he exposes who he is. You just need to sit back and give it time. Okay, as Maya Angelou once said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Okay, so you want to pay attention to the actions. Actions speak louder than words. Pay attention to the actions, and you want to do this before your emotions get involved. Okay, so pay attention to the red flags. Some characteristics of an abuser include possessiveness. They're unpredictable. They're needy. They're distrustful. Extremely jealous. They're controlling. They have a bad temper or they're always angry. They're cruel to animals. They have antiquated beliefs about the roles of women and men in relationships. They blame their victim for anything bad. They're demeaning both in public and in private. They threaten people. They're violent. They're embarrassing you in front of others, or they're embarrassed other people. Okay, they're intimidating. They may harass you and other people at work, or at least those close to them at work, and they thrive off fear. They live by the fear factor, so they like to make people afraid of them. Okay, again, you don't want to wait until your emotions are invested. You want to or invested. You want to pay attention to those behaviors, okay? And you want to be honest with yourself about what you see. Sometimes we feel like the clock is ticking, or we feel like we don't want to be alone, or we feel like we don't know when the next one is going to come, or some of us are bored and they want something to do, or they just want the feeling of being in a relationship. But a lot of times I think that we get impatient and we want to, get in a relationship. I remember watching this movie. It was on Netflix. It was called A Fall from Grace. If you have not seen that video, excuse me guys, my back is itching. That video is something else. It was about a lady in her middle age. It was about a middle-aged lady. This lady had a house that was paid for. She had a luxury vehicle. She had a professional job. She had it going on, and she was single. And so she had this buddy who kept putting the buzz in her. And we all have these people. You should get married. Why don't you get married? You need a man in your life, girl. We all have that buddy, right? Especially if we're single, when we're single, So anyway, the lady finally convinced her, got into her head. She finally convinced her to get a man, right? So she meets this guy. Anyway, turned out that the guy, they moved in together shortly after dating. He bought her flowers and candy and gifts and all that. He swept her off her feet and moved into her house. And that's when all the hell broke loose. Oh my God, he caused her hell and almost caused her to lose everything that she worked for, okay? I actually did a video about that. I think it's called A Fall from Grace. It was a Netflix review. So I'm going to put the link to that video in the description if you're interested. But that movie was a scary eye opener, okay? What is it? Desperation leads to poor decisions, okay? So listen, don't feel like you need to be pressured to hurry up and get married or to be in a relationship, okay? Because then you ignore the red flags. You ignore the signs, okay? But noticing and acknowledging abusive characteristics is the first step to peace of mind and to ending domestic violence, okay? Listen, the one that you love should never ever feel like your enemy. Okay, they should never feel like your enemy. Okay, they should feel like your best friend, and they should bring you heaven on earth, guys. Okay. Unfortunately, people stay in abusive relationships for many reasons. For some, it could be financially difficult for them to leave. Unhealthy relationships could be a norm for them. They wouldn't have any place to live. Okay, they have distorted thinking. They're confused. They have doubts. They have self blame. Okay, fear keeps people in abusive relationships. Fear that the actions will be more violent if they leave. Fear that they may take the children, or they may fear being homeless or even being alone. Okay, so fear can be a factor. They have no support system. The victim is embarrassed or ashamed to even tell anyone. Okay, leaving would cause child care problems for the sake of the children. Some people stay in the relationships for the sake of the children, feeling like they want their children to have a father. So they sacrifice their own safety and the safety of their children. But um, unfortunately, sometimes when people stay saying that they want their kids to have a father, the father's damaging them. And I'm not saying that it's men, that it's all men. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that, again, some people use staying for the sake of the children as an excuse, when in fact sometimes it's not beneficial to the children, okay? And sometimes it is. Sometimes children are close to their fathers. That's why you have some couples who divorce after the children gets older, and moves away from home. But anyways, for the sake of the children is why some people stay in relationships with an abusive spouse. Okay, the abuse is not taken seriously because it doesn't happen every day. Okay, so the abuser can have their good days and bad days. It can be fine and real affectionate and caring and loving on the times that excuse me, he doesn't explode. Okay, and I keep saying he, but women can be abusers as well. It's just that the statistics show that there are more men than that abusers than women. So I have to do that. Okay, the abuse. Well, I don't have to do it, but you know, it is what it is. The abuse is not taken seriously. I've already said that the victim feels trapped in the situation. Okay, so they feel trapped because they built this. The couple has built this life together. Okay, they may have bought a house together. They've been married for so long or whatever, so they feel trapped in this situation. Okay, the victim doesn't want to let go of the life that they built. That's kind of like what I just spoke about, how they have this home, and you know, they have a lot of assets that they acquire. Sometimes they're couples. There's some couples who have businesses together, so they built this life, and so it makes it harder, even more harder, to walk away. Okay, they stay in relationships because they believe that their love can change him. And listen. Not, the only thing that can change a man is that he want to be changed. Okay, your love and your finances and your time and your attention and your sex is not going to change him. The only thing that will change him is that he wants to be changed. Okay, people who they stay in abusive relationships, I should say, because they live by the expectations of others. Okay, some people believe that divorce is against God's will. Okay, some people believe that God will disown them, or that family members will have something to say if they divorce. Okay, they choose to stay in a relationship because they take the blame for the abuse. They feel like it's their fault. Okay, people stay in abusive relationships because they deny or they minimize. I've already said that, and rationalize the abuse. Um, People stay in abusive relationships, because their self-worth is damaged. Okay, the abuser has so convinced her that she's worthless that she starts to believe it. Okay, people stay in abusive relationships because they have a desire to win the abuser's affection, right? Some of them are experiencing trauma bond, okay? And what this is I need to do a whole video on trauma bond because sometimes you don't understand why can't I let this person go? Why is he my X factor? Why am I so I can't let this person go? It could be trauma bond. And that is when you have an emotional attachment to the abuser, okay? The affection erodes, okay? And that fuels the need for validation, okay? And then the victim works hard to try to understand what went wrong or how can I get this person back in favor with me or what have you, or so you start doing things, okay? And how can I make the wrong right? Okay, so you start doing things to gain his affection. Okay, trauma bond is, like I said, a whole new video. That'll be an interesting one too. Uh, People stay in abusive relationships because they have a low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. Okay, people stay in abusive relationships because they love the abuser. You know, they have a healthy type of love towards the abuser, but because the abuser is so hurt and scarred himself or herself, that it's hard for them to love in a healthy way. Okay, so they love the abuser and that's why they stay. Okay, maybe the victim is financially dependent on the abuser. Okay, maybe the abuser, or the victim, I should say, believes that they are powerless and that they can't do it on their own. You know, they need this man to survive, right? Right? The victim may be holding on to some false hope that things will get better, okay? Maybe if I get a job, it'll help us out and we can do better, okay? People also stay in abusive relationships because of immigration status, okay? They may be afraid of deportation or separation from their children or even law enforcement, okay? So there are many, many different barriers to leaving an abusive relationship, or why victims don't leave their abuser, okay? But listen, just know that domestic violence is preventable, okay? I'm going to say it again. Domestic violence is preventable, okay? But listen, if you or someone you know is a victim and you need help, there's actually help for the victim and the abuser, actually. They even have support groups for the abusers, okay? So there is help. Call the National Domestic Abuse Hotline, and that telephone number is 1-800-799-7233. Again, the 1-800-799-SAFE. Okay, and I'm going to put that number in the description, okay? But listen, pay attention to a person's actions because actions speak louder than words, okay? Take your time, sit back, and watch them because, again, remember, a chameleon can only hide their stripes for so long, or their whatever, camouflage. Anyway, be honest with yourself and remember that life doesn't have to be perfect to be filled with happiness, but you deserve a healthy love, okay? You deserve to feel wanted and needed, and you deserve to feel loved the healthy way, guys. Not everybody has the same normal. Not all men and women are alike. Okay? Don't be afraid to love, even if you've been hurt before, okay? And understand what healthy relationships are and what they are not. That's another video idea. Never rush into a relationship. Take your time, like I said, sit back, observe, and then be honest with yourself, okay? And then decide, make the decision, okay? And I don't mean wait a month or so. Nah, not a month or two, not even a year, 2 years, no, not 3. I don't know. It's just not a good idea. I would sit back and wait. And even when you're waiting, even if you're waiting, remember, observe, okay? Because they can only happen so long. Okay, anyway. Remember that a relationship can be heaven on earth or hell on earth, okay? But the decision is yours. You decide, okay? But know that domestic violence is preventable. Listen, guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Woo, boy, I feel better now that I let that go. Somebody needed that. And I am glad that I was here to deliver it and be obedient. God bless you.